Welcome back to Benny's Custom Works, proudly supported by Welding and Sparesbox. Don't forget Benny5 on checkout. This week, we are playing with a Pajero Mini. Those with a keen eye may notice a few things missing in the front of the car if you look really closely. That's because we're putting a winch on the car. The reason it's already apart is because I've already started this job and halfway through I decided to film it. So we're going to do a little bit of a brief recap of what I've already done, and we're going to finish making up the winch plate and then installing all the wiring today. And hopefully by the end of the day, we'll have a completed winch and we'll be pulling this up something just for fun. So let's give it a go. It's going to be fun. I'm enjoying playing around with this, making some fabrication-y type stuff. So I've been good to have the welder out again. So let's have a look. The Pajero Mini is a little bit different to Sierras and some of the smaller four-wheel drives, being that this is a complete monocoque construction. So there is no separate chassis to mount a winch to. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's what we've got, so we're going to work with it. So this is a piece of 5mm steel that I've drilled multiple holes in. It picks up basically the Rio mount on either side. It also picks up two of the factory 8mm, I believe they were originally a toe point. So it picks up those, and I've also welded in this piece of 5mm gusset here. So it's got captive nuts on the back, 3 M10 nuts, which basically sandwiches this whole thing on the front of the lower rad support, and it will add some strength to the middle piece. The reason I put these three middle brackets or the middle bolts here is so that when we're winching off it doesn't flex from the middle. So yeah, it's going to be nicely tied together. I do still need to actually make the tabs to go to the top mounting points as well. It probably doesn't really need it for the sake of strength, but the bumper bar is actually going to bolt back onto these, so I do want to have it even top and bottom. I could just throw some washers on there, but for the extra 10 minutes of cutting a couple of little brackets up and welding them to this piece of plate, yeah, I don't really see it being an issue. So moving on to the winch, obviously the winch itself is still going to be mounted to that. This is the bracket the winch actually comes with from the manufacturer. So I've just dummied it up into the bumper bar here. I basically did that first to get the position of where I wanted the winch and also to check things like the depth in here. The good news is it does all fit behind the bar, so minimal cutting obviously for the winch cabling to come out, or the rope to come out of. And we do also need to cut a slot in this general area here to access the clutch on the winch to disengage it so we can freewheel it and pull the cable out. So yeah, it should be pretty good. We're actually going to weld this bracket itself to the flat plate and then gusset it between the two. But yeah, I did want to get it basically to the point where it butted up on this bumper bar so that the cable guide and all of this bracketry just tied together, and it actually sandwiches the bumper as well. So yeah, we've got to cut a slot through this and obviously that relief hole. So plenty of fabricating today. So we'll mount the winch up first. And the other thing I do actually need to modify is the vertical strut support for the rad support where the bonnet latch mounts. So it won't go completely into its original location. We're just going to cut it probably about here, and then we'll run just a piece of flat bar almost directly flush with the lower rad support, run it up and tie it back together. We will actually mount it to the top and the bottom holes to make sure that the offset doesn't change while we're welding this piece in. And then I'll put just a riv nut on the back side so that we can still remove the upper section of it, and yeah, it'll tie it all together nicely and mean that for the most part it's a pretty well bolt-in thing. And it is reversible. So the other thing actually it's worth mentioning, when I made this gusset or this welding plate here, I did retain all of the original holes in the lower rad support as well. So I've just drilled through them, put like an 8mm hole through for a 6mm bolt, so there's plenty of clearance. So yeah, it's almost entirely reversible, save for cutting the front bumper and the front rad support strut being cut. So yeah, should be no issues going forward with it either. So let's keep on trucking. Oofed. Get that up here. Can hot glue gun. You should be wearing gloves. Should be wearing gloves. Hot actually. We have officially created a milestone. We've now got the winch mounted. It's all pretty well hidden. I've actually cut this hole out here to be able to access the freewheel hub or the clutch that's in here. So you can just reach in and freewheel the rope out and then lock it back in so that you can use the winch either in a forward or reverse motion. I've also got a little tow hook in there. All of our plates all in and mounted. The wiring's actually run from the winch up into the bay. We haven't yet mounted the relay box or anything yet, but at this point we can basically put the whole front of the car back together now. The full bumper, we can put all the clips back in the inner guard and wire it up and then be sad because wiring sucks. Where's Alan when you need him? Well, that's it for another episode. I'm so stoked with how well this has turned out. I'm really happy that it's quite stealth and you can't really notice it unless you flip the plate up. So yeah, it's exactly what I was after, and yeah, I'm actually quite impressed with the quality of the winch, considering how cheap it was. It was like 220 bucks delivered off eBay, come with the Bluetooth remote, and it also does have a wired remote. However, because it's designed for a quad bike, it has a handlebar mount and it's all sort of IP waterproof housing. So I may actually break that apart later and have a wired switch inside the car as well. So if the Bluetooth remote either goes flat or fails, we can still sort of use the setup. So yeah, pretty stoked with the whole setup. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.